somebody's listening to this and they're in a really dark time in their life, how can they find comfort in something that appears to be so painful?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question, because we all have very strong stresses and problems, and it's not easy to heal it or to fix it. But I think in the spiritual level, whatever you cannot resolve, you have to fight to accept and move on in your life. So the process of acceptance requires courage, requires patience, requires, a lot of visualization. So I believe my process of understanding of my problems coming, I have a lot of support through the martial arts, because martial arts is not only on the mat, on the ring to compete against an opponent. Martial arts is to make a better strategy to happiness, is better ways for you to visualize your future, is the way you relate yourself with others. So based on what I learned in my life of martial artists, I was able to transfer a lot of these subjects to my personal life, and also give me the peace of mind to interact with problems I cannot resolve. And that was the big, greatest leverage for me to deal with that, because you have to have a positive attitude. Quit, not an option. So regardless the opponent, regardless the problem, you always have to face with a positive eye, with hope, with faith, with tools you can help to us to understand and cope with the problem in the best way possible, for you to somehow not feel as uncomfortable. Try to find comfortable in hell.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, when they hear martial arts, they hear things like jujitsu, they might think, well, how does this relate to me? Like, I'm not going to get physical in that way. I'm not going to engage in something like that. What is the non-physical aspects of mixed martial arts, and how can the average person like utilize the mental and emotional and spiritual part of martial arts to help them practice more acceptance, feel more optimistic, and be more calm when situations get tough?
Yeah, the lessons I have learned was based on my needs to have a super comfortable situation in hell, because martial arts for me was a representing a family, and that kind of representation means I can engage in any confrontation against anyone, anytime, no weight limits, no time limits, no rules of engagement. So it was a pretty wild situation where just the practice on the mat were not going to do for me enough in order for me to feel peaceful. So I have to engage in more seeking for more options, more tools in the vast scenario of martial arts. So I start with breathing. Breathing gives me a huge amount of connections with myself, because the lung is connected with the heart and connected with the brain. And the brain and the heart are the only organs in the body who can give and receive information. So if you get emotionally a bad day or a bad email, and change your emotions because you get so upset with the surprise, through breathing, you can calm yourself up, and you're going to still with the problem, but your body not going to feel the acid, the chemistry of agonizing, claustrophobic, and pressure and stresses. So you can control emotions through the lungs. Your cardiovascular also is a big importance for you to cope with the physical needs. So if you know how to hyperventilate and use the diaphragmatic breathing, you are above ahead of the average. Even the tennis players today in the modern tennis, they do hey because they breathe connected with the motion, and they exhale in a proper way for them to recover very fast. So for every activity you do physically, you have the perfect breathing motions for you to cope and to feel 100% better. Even though I'm always being an athlete, after I learn how to breathe, I get 40% better in everything, physically, mentally, recovery. So breathing is a huge plus in the life of anyone. So aside of tools, for example, hope. Hope is an invisible tool, but if you don't have hope, you cannot engage in any confrontation. So I didn't know what I'm going to face, but I have the hope I can be. Faith, the same thing. Visualization is another practice all tough athletes have to do, because you have to find yourself winning a competition very easily. You find yourself having problems to win the competition, and then you have to change the strategy in the middle of the action to win. You have to have problems and maybe eventually even lose. And in my case, I have to even be comfortable to visualize my own death, because for me, quitting is not a option. So I was intent to allow myself to die trying. And my brothers or my coach on the corner, they have the attention for me in case I have problems for them to throw the towel. But I will not be the one who's going to quit first. So my mind was completely utilizing all the tools I can use and the like theoretical, the philosophical and the spiritual level more than I think, because that's what's really giving me the ground for me to engage in confrontation.
A lot of people they're listening to this and they've maybe follow the sport loosely or they're vaguely familiar with it, and when they hear stuff like this, they're like, "Well, I'm never going to get into a fight. The odds of me having to sincerely defend myself are pretty low." However, that same person does struggle with fear, anxiety, stress, and they have a hard time self-regulating. So I think there is obviously some parallels to getting on the mat, getting ready to engage in some sort of altercation or a match or a fight with somebody, and really being able to harness your emotions and that energy so that you can focus on what's in front of you. Like, how can maybe somebody who's not going to get into a physical altercation use the principles of jujitsu to help them better manage their mental health?
Yes, I can tell you even more, because today I can feel the society being dehumanized. The technology, the robotics, the internet, they give you the sense you have everything in your hands. You have all the possibilities, but you're not engaging. You're not living the now. You're not fully connected because you just live in the virtual world. So just for the sake of being humanized, not even being a good fighter, the possibilities you can find in jiu-jitsu or in the good practice, because you don't have to practice to win. You have to practice to recognize your senses, to understand about your balance, understand about your leverage, understand about your possibilities, which are very simple and very comfortable in terms of leverage can suppress the power. Technique can suppress the speed. So when you start to learning in a very, very easy way, and when you start to put yourself to respect the mechanics and changing the body accordingly, you're not there to fight, but you're there to recognize your movements and your positions. So especially for the people who don't like to fight, I recommend a martial arts practice, not in a tough way, not in an academy where people is involved with competition, but people there is like young guys with bulgy ears and trying to make strength and take your head off. But the self-defense aspect of it, the enlightenment about your base, your angle, possibility, your breathing, your connection, the way you keep the distance, the way you engage in the distance. So a lot of knowledge there for you to feel like, I don't like to fight, but I have a chance if somebody wants to beat me. So just the sake of feeling capable to survive, which is very possible and very much something to be achieved, is the survival mode. That's give you already a great advantage over what you was before. So you at least 500% better person, more confident, more sharp to deal with your life as a doctor, as a father, as an employer, as an employee. So the spectrum martial arts can help you goes away after like the regular match training and the competition and the energy wasted. So it's a lot to learn in terms of calmness, presence. I feel like sometimes you get into a mood of fighting to win. And I respect that with athletes and tough guys. But at this point in my life, even for myself, I like to win without a fight. So I'm pretty much using all my tools to make myself in a easy ways to deal with problems, positive ways to resolve it. And whatever I cannot resolve, I'm going to accept it and move on in a very positive brain.
You know, a lot of things have become quite popular in the last 5 to 10 years, like recreationally, like things like pickleball, for instance, have become really popular for people to play recreationally. And I think the other one that I've seen that's become I don't know if you want to call it a trend, but I think I've just seen more of my friends, more people online engage in is jujitsu. And we talk a lot about fitness on the show and the benefits of people exercising, even though they're not going to be a competitive athlete, even though they're not going to be a bodybuilder, just the mental, physical, and emotional benefits from working out. Would you say in jujitsu, there's a lot of carryover with the benefits, or is there anything like what are the mental and emotional benefits of doing jujitsu that would convince somebody to potentially like enroll in a class tomorrow?
Maybe the most important element in jiu-jitsu is as you practice jiu-jitsu, you have to be there living the present.
Mm.
As you engage, if you thinking about your girlfriend or a work, you're gonna get choked, you're gonna get surprised, you're gonna get trolled.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be there completely living the moment. And that's living now is something very needed for our society today. People stay always ahead of their times, thinking about the future and the plans, or thinking about the sadness or the happiness of happened forward. So it's hard for you to focus on the now. Even now, people is on the computer, they planning something ahead, or it's hard for them to resolve it. Only they resolving a mathematical problem, they live in the now. So the idea of being engaged in something will really take you all your attention, your physicality, your commitment, your concentration, your focus, your presence, your energy, and your calmness, your strategy. And another factor important is you dealing with another human being. So he has the mind, try to treat you like a human chess. So it's not exactly a game where you expect the rules to happen. The guy can come in and try something different. So this kind of open eyes gauge give you the sense of I'm dealing with something like me, a real opponent, because he want to choke me, I want to defend, I want to choke him. So it becomes very natural and very even fun, even recreational, not in a very tough level, but in a very basic level. You become very focused and human reactions and the ability to recognize the strategy and be resilient and tough or breathing so that's kind of moves you in a very intimate way, with very important angles you have. And if you're not training them, they never be touched, only on one case of emergency.
Mm-hmm.
But if you practice that, the sense of being natural for you, the response, even to say no, if you connect with jiu-jitsu and start, get this, no, you're not. So you start thinking, no, you're not, no, you're not. So it's easy for you to say it if you need.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir, this is my chair. So you become more present, more able to capitalize on your emotions and force what you really believe in your soul.
Yeah, and one of the other things that I think comes to mind for me, just reading your book and like just knowing what I know about the sport, is that it takes an incredible amount of discipline to be successful in any type of mixed martial arts. And I think, as you were talking about the people being distracted now, which I totally agree. And I just think people in general, they struggle to stay disciplined. They struggle to stay disciplined in the gym, with their nutrition, in a relationship, at work, like whatever the example is. People have a hard time just staying focused and just being consistent towards that goal. Any advice to my listeners on how they can become better at being self-disciplined?
I think the first important element for all this to happen is for you to find a purpose in life. Because if you're not having a purpose, if you're just driving your car as you work in your bank, or in a bank or sale, whatever you do without purpose, take you from the element of gain. And once you engage, so what I need to do to get better, what I need to do to improve, what I need to do, this or that. So when you're talking about a champion, you're talking about a guy who decides to do this for a living, decides to focus 100%. So he already have the focus and the desire and the purpose in life to make discipline a much easier task. If you don't have that purpose, discipline will come in very, very hard, because what the hell am I going to do this every day? If next month I can change directions and try to think of. So it becomes very fuzzy and unclear.
Yeah.
So as you find yourself with a purpose in life, things change because you're able to engage. And every day you engage, even with bad results, you're not going to regret it because you're working to a bigger goal. So go back to the gym, go back to the classroom, go back to the workplace, will be always a pleasure because you focus on achieving something big. And then discipline comes along.
Yeah.
And then visualization comes along. And then all the construction of your future comes along because you're already working without no limitations towards the purpose. So I feel like that's an important commitment you have to see with yourself. If you don't have a purpose, make sure you seeking for one, because without a purpose, our lives are very, shallow and without no.
Yeah.
I don't even imagine myself without purpose.
Yeah. I'd love to talk to you about purpose, because I know a big part of your purpose in life was being a father. And I know when you lost your son several years ago to a drug overdose, I know it really, really like rocked you. And you've been in a lot of physical fights, but I imagine this was probably the toughest like fight you actually were in your life.
100%.
Talk about the situation, how it impacted you, and how you ultimately like navigated that whole situation.
Yeah, I lost my ground when my son departed for this earth. He was 18 years old, full of life, energetic, tough kid. We have a very great relationship, father and son, friendship. And so I lost my base when he departed. And for a while, I was completely lost because I didn't myself in a commitment to go back to my feet. I really want to draw into a hole, which is feeling my loss. And I allowed myself to cry. I allowed myself to not want to work, not want to surf, not want to enjoy my friends. I just want to be like in peace and digest the whole very ugly situation. After maybe a couple of years of in that situation where my testosterone levels go down, I have to make testosterone replacement. And so I was living in a different mood. So one time, I spent a lot of time on my house in the hillside, have a huge trees and stuff. So I was spending a lot of time there thinking. And then one day I decided to climb a tree. So I climbed the pine tree and I saw a place where I could see the ocean, and I decided to make a platform to talk with my son, Roxy. So in the next 3 weeks, from the first light in the morning, the very final moments at the day, I was investing my time on building this platform, buying the wood, buying the harness to stay upside down, making holes on the tree, breaking electrical cords up there and making holes and make a lot of bleachers on my hands and stuff. So I completely focused on that until the end. Finally, I finished that. I polished the wood floor and that's beautiful thing, put his picture there. And I start to make a routine to go there every time to talk to him or pray with him. So, but I was still like not exactly inspired to make my life back again. But I felt like was a mission I have to do to accomplish some kind of task. And then I let him, like I said, okay, now I make everything I could to honor you, put a lot of work on this project. So now I allowed myself to move free and go back to my life. Yeah. But I still not feeling quite well. And then maybe a couple of months after that, and one time I was there, I thought about something my dad told me a long time ago, which nothing can be 100% bad and nothing can be 100% good. So depends the way you see it. You're going to see always something a little more negative in the positive or a little more positive on the negative.
Yeah.
And I try to figure out what's good on my son's departure. I could not find something to justify that departure. We're going to be good. And then I realized up to that point, I was living my life in charge of my time, completely confident I could do anything at the time I want. I was a happy father with kids. I was a super respected martial arts. I was doing my thing, my class, so my surfing. So I felt like I owned the time and a very selfish way. And if my son at the time came, I said, Dad, I'd like to talk to you. I'm going to say, calm down, sweetheart. I go to surf. When I come back in this afternoon, we talk.
Mm.
That's what I could say if I was in a normal path. But I learned with that, tomorrow may never happen. And you should be more sharp the way you use in your day. So something good I took from that departure was the learning of being very smart in the way I use my day to don't have regrets for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's giving me the sense where if I'm, let's suppose, going to Japan and I'm a freeway late for the flight, and my other daughter called me, Dad, I need to talk to you. I will stop the car in the freeway, say, can you, yes, sweetheart, can talk. So she's going to discuss with me, I have problems, this and that. I don't know what to do here and there. So eventually I'm going to stop, listen when she finished, and I'm going to try to give my best advice, and I'm going to terminate that kind of action to then engage on the freeway to see if I can still get the flight for Japan. I may lose the flight. I don't care, but I have to resolve the matter and what's important now. So after that understanding, I was thankful for my son's departure because he taught me how to be sharp on my use the time. And I was much happier to learn that. So I felt like it was not a compensation, but it's something I could say, which is positive in my life. I was not so much distracted in time and thinking about I'm in charge. So I become much more respectful, and that's give me the sense of was a good thing in his departure.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing that. And I'm really sorry to hear about the loss of your son. I just celebrated 16 years of recovery last week. And so it definitely is near and dear to my heart talking about this stuff. I'm curious though, there's so many things you said that I want to kind of unpack. First, like you mentioned you had this amazing relationship with your son. And I know a lot of times not just kids, people in general, when they become addicted to substances, there's a lot of shame. And that takes over their life along with the lifestyle of just, living day to day, being, chasing after the high, etc. And people tend to sometimes stray away from people they love the most, including members of their family. I know in your book, you said you hadn't heard from him. I guess it was for a few weeks or a month or something. Did you know that something was up with him, or was the drug overdose a complete shock to you?
Was a surprise. I know he has a very tough life, like in terms of being a smart kid and walking with people in different levels of life and engage with drugs. I knew he's having an active, dark side life. He was not a bad guy, but he was a very good kid and liked to party and liked to do things and sometimes fighting on the street and stuff. So it's just being a kid. This situation, what happened was he went to New York to see his girlfriend and to spend some time modeling there. And then one week after he there, he stopped to call me. So I did not sure what happened. I was very confident he was maybe in a party or doing something. And then the time started to keep passing by. And I felt like it was something strange. 2 weeks he didn't call, 3 weeks. So, and then I put my friends from the police in New York to check. And then eventually they found Rickson, body and what the situation was like plain. But, I felt a little strange, but I never expect this to happen.
You mentioned that one of the sayings your dad taught you, which I think is brilliant, is, things aren't always going to be 100% bad and things aren't going to always be 100% good either. And I think it's really important when you're going through hard times to find the silver lining in adversity, because no matter what, you can't change what happened. You can only change your outlook on it. And if you have a completely jaded and negative outlook on the situation, it's just going to make things worse, because, you're just going to focus on that over and over again. That said, I also understand that when people do find something beneficial, like you said, with time, the memories and the what if I could have saved my son, the what if I could have saved my daughter creep in, those thoughts come back. What did you tell yourself when stuff like that happened?
I feel like I don't feel myself guilty in any way. I'm still very innocent, even though I make mistakes in my life. My intention was not to make the bad, the negative aspects of my mistake. My mistakes are done based on the innocence of my thinking. You know, I have done things when I'm a young age without the conscience and the knowledge, which I've never, if you give me $10 million today, I don't repeat it. But I also don't regret what I have done in the past because that's what's building my character as a man, as a tough guy, whatever. So the idea of having yourself self-judgment, I feel like that's all depends of your age, depends of your experience, depends of your exposure and that. And they have to use that experience, that action in order to evolve. I think we are here to evolve in terms of. So sometimes you see back then, you're not having the sense of humor you're supposed to have, or the patience you're supposed to have, or the acceptance you're supposed to have. And that's make you feel growing from that back then to now, because now you're more patient, now you're more enlightened, now you're more capable to do it, so you have to attach yourself positiveness, bad experience for a possible growth for the future. The experience we're always going to have bad experience. We're always going to make mistakes. But depending how you do the outcome of this, how you process yourself for the future, this can be the best, a certain thing you have done, you're passing through that bad problem to achieve that good situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good way at looking at it. I think that's a really good way of looking at it. I think taking this like to the opposite is, the part where you said, things aren't always 100% good. You obviously had a lot of success in the sport of jiu-jitsu. You won a lot of fights, and it can be tough, I think, to stay humble, right? Because a lot of times when you keep winning and winning and winning, your ego gets boosted, then all of a sudden you kind of get sucker punched, or somebody comes at you in a way you weren't expecting, or life hits you that just brings you to your knees. What has helped you stay humble throughout your career, and what advice do you have for others to get better at practicing humility?
Yes, first of all, even though I was very good in what I do all my life, I was in talent and on top of my game, I was able at the same time to have a student which is learning from me as a white belt. And I feel bad about just see him as my student and tell him what to do. I feel good about acknowledge what he already is, if he's a doctor, or if he's a student, or if he's going to graduate in law. So I always going to mention, hey, we have here our future champion and lawyer. Or, hey, champion, how you doing? So I always bring the energy towards my students, empower them, giving them the sense. I see them with the best eyes I could see. He may not be the good fighter yet, but he already know I can respect him because he achieved the doctor status or employee or whatever. So even if he's just an average Joe, I would say, hey, champion, you're looking good today. So the idea of respecting my students as I respect myself was always based on my relationship with them,
Yeah.
And the idea of respect comes along with a very important element, because one time I asked my dad what I should do to become the best teacher I could be. Because at that point, I really decided to become a professor and fighter and not go to school anymore. And he said to me, if you want to be a good professor, just make sure you know the move and try to offer the move with the best in layers and try to make the guy execute the good positions and so on. But if you want to be the best instructor you can be, before you show the movements, you have to understand what the student needs to learn. So that's opened my mind to become a professor / psychology, because today I try to read the student before I even start in the engagement. If he's tense, if he's nervous, if he's lazy. So depending, I will give him advice how to breathe or how to put himself relax, man. So I will understand the guy from the human perspective, not from I'm the teacher, you the student. you have to learn what I have to teach you. But how you feel today, you looks like too tense. So becomes a little more personal and more direct. The guy, he needs to be fixed. And some guys, I have to start the class by relax, brother. Be very relaxed and do slow motion. The others, I have to say, hey man, wake up, lift your hands, be more agile, wake up. So the idea of empower the guy will come in the need has for his personal adjustment and benefit, not exactly.
Yeah.
So has to be
Right.
comfortable for the process.
So like one of the, I think, main benefits that people would think of when it comes to mixed martial arts is the ability to defend yourself, is the ability to stop somebody from picking on you, to stop somebody from robbing you, just to stop being messed with and stop being, picked on, and to be able to carry yourself in a way that gives off this essence that people shouldn't mess with you. And I also think that people may get the wrong idea, and that means that somebody just has to be violent, which we know is not the answer either. I know you've helped you've helped kids, with being bullied and stuff. And I think that's a problem in today's society, is that, people are, there's a lot of bullying going on, and people are afraid to stand up for themselves. They're afraid of walking down the street and potentially getting mugged or something. I guess just from a non-physical perspective, like, what advice do you have for somebody listening to this or watching this, for them to be able to like carry themselves in a way where it gives off this aura that people should respect them and they shouldn't mess with them?
I feel like even though you're not a martial artist, you should understand and practice the martial arts tool and know, because one thing is you learn those tools based on physicality. So if you're a tough guy, you may gonna be 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years in the martial arts academy training hard. But sometimes you don't have that physicality. You don't like to gay. You're a musician, you're an artist, you're a guy who's trying to be a doctor. So you have soft hands and you don't want to engage in confrontations and grappling and stuff. But you should use the martial arts tools which are appealing to you, like breathing, like visualization, like in self-defense, which give you the sense and the ability to position yourself the best way possible, or just to keep a distance. Because if you know how to maintain your distance, when the guy want to punch you, he needs to get into your distance. So you keep distance. You don't have to beat him up to stay away from the punch and surviving for the attack. So you have to have the good sense of self-defense, applying techniques, applying timing, applying connection, applying base, and be the best version of yourself. And then you still can have a peaceful life, but very much no one a competition or no one a fight life. But if in case something happened, you're confident enough, you have a chance to help, to find support. You have the ability to maybe defend a punch. So for some, jiu-jitsu gonna get as a support practice. For others, gonna become the leverage they have to win in life. Become fighters, competitors, tough guys, athletes, bouncers, but police officers. So they learn jiu-jitsu to use on their operation, their lives. But to others, women, kids, they have to learn just for the sake of not being bullied. Just being the sake of knowing how to say no, how to position yourself, how to not get slapped on the face. Because everything is techniques and distance. If you don't allow the distance of the slap to happen, you're never going to get slapped. You don't have to beat the guy up away from the striking zone. So there's many different ways to learn martial arts. And it's always a way to adapt to the guy, even though he's not a fighter. He's going to be a spiritual warrior.
I guess a lot of the stereotypes about the person being tough, over the years has been that they're often the loudest, right? You hear them yelling and they just can't control their emotions, and people might say, oh, that person is tough, they're going to beat me up or whatever. But I guess the longer you live in life and the more you learn to understand things, you understand that the quietest are often
dangerous,
the toughest. Yeah, right. And a lot of times the people who are loud, like the bark, is how can like the average person like maintain this sense of calmness when they're in some sort of high stress situation that they're losing sight of what's in front of them. Their emotions are beginning to take advantage of them. What are some of the things that you've implemented in your career to quiet the mind instantly?
If I start to get in a turmoil of any disturbance, no matter if it's emotional, no matter if it's physical, no matter if it's the possibility for engagement, something, I start to immediately fight that with my breathing,
Mm-hmm.
organizing my breath, my heart rate, organizing my breath, to be calm enough to still focus and not allow myself to butterflies take over and being lost in emotion. So sometimes you take the emotions take control. Panic, the claustrophobic, the fear, the stress, the confusion, the doubts. So everything can be kind of confusing and you get claustrophobic. And so breathing is a very important thing to keep my elements level. And then depending the nature of the engagement, I will give the sense accordingly, because if I'm in the past, I will be ready to fight, ready to win. But in the present moment now, I'm still a warrior. But I'm an old warrior. I have injuries and stuff. So I'm ready to apologize. I'm ready to let pass through me. I want to win without a fight. So if I apologize, if I diminish the situation, de-escalate the situation without fighting, for me is a big victory right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to just putting myself at risk to loss. So I prefer to win just by an argument than lost a fight. So today I cannot be the same aggressive, tough guy I was with 25, 30 years old. So I have to respect that, and I have to keep a mentality. Like if I'm leaving the movie theater with my wife to a parking lot, and it's a 10-minute walk, and through this alley I have 5 minutes less walk, but I see a gang of bad guys and drinking and noise and stuff. I said, sweetheart, let's go back to the long way. I have no intention to keep showing my ego and putting my chest up and pass through and put at risk my wife, my health, getting killed, getting stabbed, just for the sake of, oh, I'm a tough guy, I cannot be so that's wrong. So the idea of adjusting yourself based on what your real possibilities are, apologize is not as showing you a coward. Apologize shows you smart enough to don't get involved in a problem.
Would you say you felt the same feeling of joy when you apologize and you admit that you did something wrong to win, I guess, the fight versus you actually physically winning a fight when you were younger?
I believe in different circumstances, the outcome is the same, because I feel like I win by not fighting.
Right.
If I can avoid a fight with a desperate, if I have to deal with somebody 25 years old and aggressive and able to diminish that possibility, and each one goes in our own way without fighting, regardless who apologized, for me is a big victory, because I didn't put myself at risk. I didn't, so it's a just advantage for me. So being honest is a victory tastes the same. One by fighting, the other one by not fighting, because I really think if the guy beat me up, regardless and apologize, I'm not winning anything. I'm just losing. So the idea of winning has to come with the taste of the perfect arrangements, the perfect strategy.
I'm curious, you're obviously seen as somebody who's really tough, dominated in a sport that is known for its physicality, being tough, not letting your emotions get the best of you. And you also said when your son died, crying was very helpful for you, letting out the emotions and the tears. And I think a lot of people, specifically men, have a hard time with that. I think men either, generally speaking, they don't show any emotion at all, which is not good, or they can't control their emotions and they get angry at everything, they cry at everything, and there's no healthy release of these emotions. Talk about what did crying do for you at a time where I'm sure you didn't feel like the tough guy anymore?
Yeah, I feel like it's important, aside of being in purpose in life, have to be honest with yourself.
Hmm.
You cannot just play a role of tough guy and putting like this armor of toughness. From inside, you just being destroyed and eating by inside. So the idea of being strong for me also shows how important for me is to show I'm in a fragile situation. I'm honest with myself. So if I feel like I have a loss, I have to cry this loss. I have to feel like my situation changed because I lost. And if I lost, I'm not be happy. If I lost, I'm not going to play a tough role guy here, which, oh, that's okay. I'm ready for next one. So I felt like I was cheating on myself if I just say that's okay. Nothing okay. So I was able to embrace, hug like a 200-pound dumbbell and, and throw myself in the middle of the lake
Hmm.
and stay there. And then from the bottom side, the very uncomfortable situation, I decide, should I also get in drugs? Should I also kill myself? Should I also stay on the bar, on the dark and be not good enough for my kids? Should I also give up from life? I put all the possibilities on the table, honest, to see what's going to be my pick. I did not forbidding myself, don't then looking to the side I could get desperate or fail. So I looking the whole picture clear in my mind and said, shoot, what am I going to pick now after that? Because I have the reason to choose anything I want. And then I decide to choose the positive way. And then I decide to still being a perfect father for my kids. And then I, little by little, get out of the hole and putting myself in the air again to breathe because it was my choice. I first allowed to get in the hole. If I didn't say, no, I cannot get in that hole. I feel nothing. I'm ready to keep working. So I would maybe live all my life hiding for myself and being dishonest with how important was the loss of my son in my life. So I give the real importance and then I get the real medicine, be able to get it back top and be the best father I can be, the best teacher I can be, the best master, the best friend, the best employee, whatever.
Yeah. I want to talk about your battle with Parkinson's, like another like non-physical fight, of your life that you've had to deal with recently. What has that been like? Going from the person that was so mentally like strong, tough, sound, throughout most of your life and, just being a physical beast, again, for a good bit of your life to now having this disease that can really limit you in many ways. Like, what has that process been like?
Was a learning process and was a very positive learning process because of course it's a sickness. Of course it's a day, diminish your ability to handle situations, to walk well, to jump, fight, to training, put you in a slow motion, put you uncoordinated. So, but I've been learning a lot to that. First, I, I dealing with a normal opponent for me. So strategically speaking, I make all the changes because the doctor I been dealing with, he tell me to do exercise, taking the medicine and keeping living my life. And then I seeking for other doctors, for healing doctors, for spiritual doctors. And now I change all my life. I stopped eating meat. I stopped drinking eventually beer or alcohol. I start to fasting. I start to change the water in my life to ionized water. So the water is not as heavy as it's supposed to be. I take supplements, different supplements to help me. I make physiotherapy for Parkinson. So I change my life in so many ways for better. Because for me, I see an opponent who try to catch me little by little. And I have my strategy to minimize that. In my mind, I want to beat Parkinson, but I'm not sure it is going to be possible. But at least I do everything in the protocols I have to do to cope with the problem in the most appropriate way.
Yeah.
I don't let doctors take care of myself. I take care of myself. Eventually, if the technology will change different, I will maybe procedures and everything. But the idea of having Parkinson doesn't make me diminish my ability to believe in myself. To have hope, I'm going to minimize the effects of the Parkinson. So every day, I feel like Parkinson tries to take from me a little more movement, a little more. And I feel like very motivated dealing with this fight to regain my movements back, to make exercise. Another very important thing which motivates me is, instead of speaking too much about the physical jiu-jitsu at those days, I'm still motivated to teach jiu-jitsu, but more like the spiritual and the invisible tools we have in jiu-jitsu. So that's given me the chance to be very sharp on the jiu-jitsu I still can practice, because the physicality of jiu-jitsu is fading away, but the invisible jiu-jitsu for me, blooming. And I'm very highly motivated to not only training for myself, my breathing, my movements, my understanding of base and so on, and also pass to other students and professors how my vision is, because again, this invisible jiu-jitsu can help people. They're not going to help the people who need it the most, which is the weak one and the shy one, not the fighter one. But guys who are, and those are what they need the most jiu-jitsu. The people who are more fragile, who are not exactly fighters in the spirit. And that's make me very motivated to live my life still with a purpose, passing something very special.
And so the principles of invisible jujitsu, it's just like really doing what you need to find the mind, body, spirit connection. This is the breath work. This is the visualization. This is the meditation. This is the purpose, etc. Right?
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, Rickson, this has been awesome. I'm really honored to have the opportunity to speak with you. I really thank you for your time, and I'm really inspired by everything that you've achieved in your life.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate, my brother. And anytime, let's get together and talk a little bit about how things going. But at this point, I'm very happy to launch my second book. That's going to be more inspired for people who need to resolve some issues in their lives. And I'm very happy to be with you. And I hope you and your family doing well.
Thank you so much. Likewise, I really appreciated having you on the show.
My pleasure, bro. God bless.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, I really think you're going to like this video as well. I'll see you there.